Welcome back to ACC Baseball Etc, presented as always by our friends at Academy Sports and Outdoors. Academy is your new home for Jordan, so prepare for takeoff. Gear up today and take flight. On the court, off the court, and above the court, make your play in the latest head-to-toe Jordan gear for the entire family. Available in store and at academy.com. Elevated styles and shoes for everyone. Unstoppable value every day. Unleash your greatness with Jordan at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Yeah.
Graves, Daron Vaught, we're glad you're here. We got a lot to get into. Grady,
Yeah.
But first, what do you got on Jordan?
Dude, that's I love the read right there. That's fantastic. But Jordan, yeah, I know you talked about the court and all that fancy stuff, but Jordan spikes and cleats are the custom ones. Those are huge now in big league baseball. And of course, a lot of college teams have them. North Carolina is, Jordan-esque, but yeah, dude, that's awesome. When are we going to get some Jordans?
That's a good question. Do you have Jordans? Or you might have a small sneaker collection, I take it.
I have a couple pairs of Jordans, only because, and I hope Scott Forbes hears this, because I've been begging for his that he wears coaching third base. And he keeps saying, they're size 13, size 13. I said, if they're free, I wear 10 to 15. So since he never gave them to me, I had to go buy some of my own.
Nice.
Yeah,
fair.
So I have a couple pair.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Then it's a beautiful partnership, Jordan brand, and our partners at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
That's right.
So go get your Jordan gear at Academy and buckle in, because I got the little notepad out. We've got some things to discuss. That's my pen clicking for those.
I've never seen you with a notepad. This is serious today.
No,
huh?
I never hold it up to the screen. This is me being performative about it. It's always here. It's just never like right here. So,
yeah. All right. Well, I'm ready. I'm ready for it.
With that in mind, this morning, new D1 Baseball Top 25 came out. This was, my understanding, the most difficult week for the top 25 that the guys have had.
Wow.
Because 6 of the top 10 teams from last week's top 25 lost their weekend series. You knew there was going to be some upheaval. The result is 3 of the top 5 now being ACC teams. So Clemson got swept by NC State. The Wolfpack jumped in the top 25 more than anybody. We'll get to that. Clemson, we still think, is pretty good. So they're at number 3 instead of number 2. North Carolina is up to number 4. And Florida State is number 5. So we've got 3 ACC teams in the top 5. I'm going to put you on the spot here. Of those 3, You've got a choice. You can pick one and only one to win the whole shebang. Get to Omaha, win the College World Series. What one of those 3 teams would you pick?
Yes. Gosh. So I think you can make an argument for each one of them, for each one of these teams, whether it's their pitching or it's their offense that's carrying them or their defense. Like, if I had to pick one, like, on the spot, like, I can't believe you're doing this to me, but I think Florida State.
Yeah.
Florida State, just because Jamie Arnold, Joey Vellini, Wes Mendez, and then their offense, you're getting production from many players, not just Alex Lodis. Miles Bailey, I know, who you absolutely love, that freshman at first base. Max Williams has been doing phenomenal. Hunter Carnes, freshman behind the plate. There's so many guys. Drew Farrow is hitting the ball out of the ballpark now. Gage Harrelson. I think the list goes on. And yes, each team has a bunch of stud players that are having great years, but you have that to go along with that starting rotation. It's tough. And I know other bullpens. I think Clemson, North Carolina, their bullpens have been fantastic, probably better than Florida State's. But with that rotation that Florida State has going into, and North Carolina has a great rotation too. See, this is why this is not fair that you're asking me this question. So I think going in a short series, good starting pitching is going to beat good hitting at the end of the day. And who has the best starting pitching, regardless of not looking at stats? I would take stuff from Jamie Arnold and Joey Vellini and Wes Mendez right at this very moment.
Yeah. I like that answer. I like the way the lineup has come together for Florida State. I know that's kind of where the most question, but they didn't have a ton of question marks at the beginning of the season, but that's where the most of them came into play. But the freshmen have served well. Like you said, Lodis has blown up and is even better than we expected, offensively especially. So I like that answer. I think that would be mine also. But I do like Clemson. You know, I was woefully late to the North Carolina party. I like Clemson's DNA. They're it's a collection of winning players. And this past weekend against NC State, they ran into a very hot team at home, and it was their first series loss of the season. They had not lost a weekend, much less been swept. So it'll be interesting to see how they come out of that, how they because it's a new, we're at the point in the season where there's not a lot of new things happening to teams. That's a new thing that just happened to Clemson.
Right. And I mean, not that Clemson didn't play well. They ran into NC State, who Elliot Avent told me it was the best 3 complete games that they've played all season, in a row. And everything they did was right. Everything they did it worked. But with Clemson, I feel like something kind of new besides losing their first series. They do have a good rotation. They got Drew Titsworth, who's their second number 2 starter right now behind Aiden Canuck. But BJ Bailey has been throwing the ball very well for them in that third game, Sunday or Saturday, whenever they play it. Like the game they lost, his past start, he threw 6+ and only gave up 3 earned runs. And typically for Clemson, that's a win.
Yeah.
But NC State, I don't think anybody could have beat NC State this weekend.
I think you're right. And the rotation has come together for Clemson, whereas that would have been something that was more concerning even back when they weren't getting swept in an ACC weekend, right? So
right.
Even though they eat the losses from this past weekend, their outlook is still pretty good. And I think I'm doing a mediocre job of defending the guys for keeping Clemson ranked so highly, only dropping 1 spot after getting swept. But again, just consider what they've been. There's a body of work thing going on here. And who defeated them, which is NC State, who jumps up to number 13 in the top 25, up 12 spots from 25. Remember, they just broke back into the rankings last week. Mm-hmm. And here they are at number 13. I think they're probably in line at this point. I'll be interested to see what the Nerdcast says this week. Yeah, I think they're probably in line to host if the season ended today, or maybe if you project out to the rest of the end of the season. I mean, any projection that was previously made did not include NC State sweeping Clemson. Right? It might have included a series win for NC State, but I guarantee you no one was projecting a sweep.
And a series win only because it was in Raleigh. It was, if that was at Clemson, they probably would have said, "Oh, NC State would be lucky to get 1 out of that." But I don't think anybody predicted a sweep. But I'd still I stand with D1 guys, putting them at number 3. Clemson only dropping 1 spot. They're still one of the best teams in the country. And if you haven't seen a lot of their games, you're going to say, well, 1-3, how are they still there? Well, they're still 36-10 and they got swept. They're still a really good team. And they have the best closer in baseball, at least stat wise. But you watch this kid, Lucas Malstat, he did give up a run the other day, unfortunately, but he's been lights out. He's been shut down. You bring him in the game, game's over. And then Reed Garris ahead of him has been lights out also. So there's so many parts of this Clemson team that there's no reason for them to drop further than 1, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm with you. We haven't talked to Lucas Malstead. He drops down to the lower arm slot.
Mm-hmm.
Did you ever try anything like that in your career?
No, because it always hurt if I did. I just didn't feel like I had the arm speed. Some guys can really whip it or sling it, so to speak. Like I just didn't feel like I could do that, and the control. Like he's got that little tight frisbee slider from that arm angle. I don't know how it happens, but he's able to do it. Some guys are able to do it. I just like if I tried it, it just kind of floats up there. Just hit me. Yeah.
This is way off. This is a tangent. Were you ever at a point where you did try new things? Like you were kind of like trying to find it right at times in your career when you were struggling? Like I don't think you ever tried throwing a knuckleball, right? But like something like that where it's just like I need something new.
So if it happened during the season, I would just throw my glove away and get a new glove, or just put new spikes on. Like that was the way that I changed how I was pitching. It's just a superstition thing. But every spring training going in, I would try to learn this cutter, and as easy as it sounds, like I can throw a cutter now and I'm 51 years old, but when I was playing, I could never throw it the way that I wanted it to work. So then if I did get it close, then I would lose the feel of my sinker. So it's like, pick your poison. What do you want? Do you want your sinker that has gotten you to this point, or do you want to keep working on this little crap cutter that you got? So I would bang the cutter, 2 weeks into spring training every year, but I always wanted to throw one. Because if I could have a cutter and a sinker, like balls going just a little bit each direction, like, gosh, that would be great. But I just never figured it out.
You may do pretty well without the cutter. So
I think I made the right choice.
Man, it does make me think if you would have figured that out though, you'd been all galaxy. Like
I think I would have pitched a little bit longer, maybe. But that's okay though. I'm happy with my decision. Because if it could have went the complete opposite way. If I just I'm going to be stubborn. I'm going to make this pitch work. I could have been out of the league in like 2 years.
Yeah, no, for sure. Speaking of NC State, I'll get us back on track here.
Yeah, yep.
Braden Fraseman, the single game performance of the weekend. Maybe the single game performance of the season in the ACC.
Yeah.
On Thursday in game one of that set, he went 5 for 5, 2 home runs, 7 driven in. And I would argue, Gravy, it set the tone for the entire weekend. I think Fraseman's night really put NC State in a position of momentum where they went into the next 2 days with a lot of confidence, and therefore you get the team playing its most complete set of 3 games all year, according to their head coach, Elliot Avon. Fraseman was, it was unbelievable. I was watching it. Our friends Mike Farron and Gabby Sanchez were on the call, and it's just like every plate appearance, you just knew it almost. And I heard him say after the game, he had never had a game like that in his career. He was talking to the ACCN guys.
Yeah.
Tyler Wilson, by the way, former UVA pitcher, making his studio debut in the seat that you more often are in there at the desk.
Oh, nice.
So they were talking to Fraseman, and he was like, no, I've never, because Fraseman's a JUCO guy. The environment, the scene, the magnitude of the game, of course, was different for anything he had experienced in his career. But he was like, no, I've never had a game like that in my career. Just like 2 bombs, 5 for 5, unreal.
Well, who does though? Like,
you're right.
That's what makes it so special, because I think anybody at this level, if they do that, they're going to be like, I've never had a game like that. Like, it doesn't happen often at any level, really. It's a unbelievable performance, obviously. And this is against a team that just came off of a huge win against Georgia 2 nights before that. So they're feeling pretty good about themselves. So that you saying like immediately this kind of setting the tone for the rest of the weekend, I absolutely agree with that. And you can tell the the rest of their baseball play, offensively, defensively, pitching, they use 6 pitchers all weekend, NC State. That's insane. 2 a day. That's it against Clemson. So, yeah, definitely set the tone. Phrasman was remarkable. And just to say that probably not going to have another 5-for-5, 2 homer, 7 RBI game in his life. That's how that's how rare and exciting that is.
Probably not, right?
Yeah.
Another version of setting the tone in that game. Anderson Nance came out of the bullpen for NC State.
Yeah. Good luck.
I mean,
nasty.
Filthy.
Yeah.
And he's been that way. He's really emerged as a centerpiece for their bullpen. He's had several 5+ inning relief outings. And Farron and Gabby were having the conversation on air. I heard about whether or not you leave him in the bullpen and keep him as that piece. Or if you make him a starter and try to cultivate that as like your Saturday guy. Because we all know they've got Dom Fritton and Ryan Marone, who we both really like.
Yeah.
I think this is where I would stand on this. It's working. I don't know about trying to switch things up when it's working so well.
Right.
That even if you get a dud inning or 2 from a starter, and then have to sort of pull the safety valve that is Anderson Nance, and you bring him in. I like the balance that he gives them, especially with Jacob Duden being Jacob Duden for them too. I like what they're doing with him as a reliever.
Yeah, and I think everybody would say you put him in the middle of Fritton and Marone, and then you got a fantastic 1-2-3 punch on a weekend. But Heath Andrews hasn't been awful. Like
right. I think that's the other thing, right? Yeah. It's not like you've got a problem on one of those days. Heath Andrews has been fine.
Yeah.
And again, like you can use Nance more than once if you don't need him to go 5 innings, right? Like
that's the thing. If you throw Nance in that 2 spot, can Heath Andrews pitch more than once a weekend? Or who jumps into that spot to take over if Fritton has to come out after 2 innings? Who's that guy that comes in?
Yeah.
It changes the whole outlook of your bullpen.
It's a really important piece to have in a bullpen, and not many college teams have something very specifically like that.
Yeah.
Clemson maybe could have used it this weekend because Aiden Canuck got it.
Yeah.
He got extended when he wasn't at his best, and he ended up giving up 8 runs on 11 hits. And, maybe you save him from that with a long relief type if you've got it. Now, Eric Bakich, their head coach, said Canuck's the best pitcher in the country. Most of the time, a great starting pitcher can absorb some blows and get through it and still give you enough length to get through a game. And he did in a way, didn't in a way for Clemson on that Thursday night. But yeah, man, NC State is surging at the right time. They're here they come. Wolfpack is coming.
Yeah. Yeah. And when I texted with Elliot the other night, it was almost like he was trying to say, because he's like, we still got a lot of work to do. And I felt like saying, well, no, you don't. Like, you're right where you need to be. But I get it. It's almost like he's saying, okay, we want to keep sneaking up and not like, don't want too many people paying attention to us. Let's just keep sneaking up and playing our games and then see what happens, Yeah. But I mean, they're really good right now. But it's not shocking. I think we all could have seen this coming with Elliott. He does it every year. Seems like this team.
Yeah, they're up to 13th in the country now.
Mm-hmm.
I think preseason they were number 12. I might be right. I might be off by 1 or 2 there. So like
top
they
15.
are slotting in roundabout
where they were supposed to be,
where they were in the preseason anyway. So it's kind of like they are who we thought they were situation.
Yeah.
But it's exciting. It's exciting that they're back up into the top 25, into the top 13 in the country. And then we've got those 3 in the top 5. Yeah. Other teams are playing well, like NC State's next opponent, because they go to Miami this weekend. And the Hurricanes,
yeah,
big weekend against Boston College. They have now, where's my note on them? I made notes. They have now won. They have now won 9 of their last 10 games. They did drop their midweek at FIU, but it's consecutive sweeps in the conference. They took 2 of 3 from Duke before that. They took 2 of 3 from Pitt before that. I mean, they've got more losses since I last saw them in person. Remember, I had the series at North Carolina. They have just as many losses to FIU in midweek action as they do in the ACC, which I mean that as a good thing. The midweeks to FIU are certainly not something that they wanted to happen, but it's just a uniquity at this point. But they only have two ACC losses since then, and they've played, what did I say? 4 series? 4 series?
Yeah, 4.
Then?
Yeah.
And they are firmly in the field for an NCAA regional right now. In fact, you and I were talking off the air just now about the ACC tournament in Durham and the way that all 16 teams get in, and there are single buys, double buys for that. Top 4 seeds in the conference get double buys. The second grouping of 4 get single day buys. Miami's 8th in the conference right now. Clemson, who we were just talking about as the number 3 team in the country, is number 5 in the conference right now. So it's wild to think that in the conference tournament, Miami is in the same positioning to have the same advantage as Clemson at this point. When 2.5, 3 weeks ago, I mean, Miami was way out of the picture.
Yeah. Miami wasn't even thought of, I don't think. And I know I've been a victim of it, saying that, there's so many new players on this roster. They're just trying to get a feel and figure it out and rebuild. But I like the direction they're going. And then all of a sudden, move Brian Walters back to the bullpen, and it's like, this is a completely different team. And it's really fun to see, because their defense has gotten so much better. Torres out there in center field catches everything, it seems. Like you can't get anything by him. But yeah, they're fun to watch now. And they have I think they have that feeling of, okay, we're supposed to win, as opposed to a couple weeks ago. It's like, all right, guys, let's just see what happens. It's a completely different team. Siskar is fantastic.
AJ Siskar, who they've moved into the rotation, was he was a nominee for Pitcher of the Week in the ACC this week. I saw. Had a great outing. That made a huge difference. And it's embracing. I've talked a lot about their mix, and it's a lot of new guys via both the transfer portal and their freshman class.
Right.
I think some of the successes they had toward the beginning of the season, it was heavy reliance on the transfer guys. Now that we're over midway through a season, the freshmen are starting to step up. And it's a freshman class that I really like. You mentioned Michael Torres in the outfield. Fabio Peralta's become a favorite of mine in the outfield. They're so fun to watch. Siskar into the rotation. Tate Darius has had good outings. It's coming together in a way that, and I think we're saying this about a lot of teams in the league, it's been progressive. And I think maybe we were guilty of not having the patience necessary to understand that it was gonna come along. It was gonna happen. Just like NC State, right? It was just like, okay, it's a new group. They had some injuries at the beginning of the season. It's just gonna steadily come along. And that is, I think, what we're seeing with Miami as well, in a different way, because it's mostly with freshmen for Miami.
Yes. I think with NC State, it was easy for us to say, oh, they'll come along, they'll be fine, because of Elliott Avent. I think has a lot to do with that, and Chris Chrysler, their whole staff. And that's not a knock on JD and his staff. I just think it's when you have so many new players and so many new freshmen, it's like, okay, what are you going to do, JD? Like, good luck. I mean, I have complete faith in you, but how are you going to get these guys to be different? And maybe he's setting that tone right now at the beginning of his managerial career or head coaching career. Like, this is how we're going to do it. And you guys are going to start trusting us and believing in us, And I mean, I don't know. It's great to see, not to sound like a homer, but I love the fact that we get to talk about Miami a little bit more in a positive light.
Look, I'll interject as the non-Miami alum. The league's better when they're better. Like, it's just, that's any college baseball fan, I think, will tell you that. Like, we're all better off when Miami is Miami and Miami is good. So I like seeing them in a regional too. I like seeing them have success too.
Yeah.
I think most people listening and or watching can relate to that. If you're just a college baseball fan, maybe not Florida State fans, but if you're a college baseball fan, you probably feel the same way. Yeah.
But Miami, when they're relevant, it's more exciting. But Jake Ogden, I think, has been great at shortstop for them.
Yeah,
like,
UNC quietly transfer. He's been fun,
swinging the bat very well.
He's one of my favorite guys to watch in the conference. Actually, like, if I was to construct a team of guys, which I might do, we'll see. I don't know. There aren't real hard and fast criteria for this, but it's just like guys I like to watch. Maybe I would create a team. I'm not trying to infringe on Aaron Fit territory with the all fit team, but maybe there's like an all Daron sort of thing we could do.
Professor's picks.
That's good.
Yeah.
I turned in final grades yesterday, by the way. So
still no Fs?
Done for the semester. No Fs. Haven't failed anyone. Still
nice.
Track record is still going strong.
I'd hate to be that first ever F in your class.
I tell them that at the beginning of every semester.
You don't want to be that.
You don't want to be the first person I've ever failed.
Nice.
So Miami winners of 9 of 10. Mm-hmm. On to another team that is not firmly in the field for an NCAA regional, but is creeping up into that territory. Did you know, Danny, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish have won 8 in a row?
I did not.
Did you know they're in the top 50 in RPI, 47 as of this morning?
I did know that their RPI was up. Yeah.
Right. Most of the league's RPI is pretty good. So that I felt like that would have been a safe bet.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. They're hot. They are knocking on the door of NCAA regional consideration as an at-large.
Mm-hmm.
And these last few weekends are going to be very, very important. In fact, their final weekend, Notre Dame goes to Miami, I think, right?
Yes. It's at Miami. Yeah.
Last weekend of the season, Notre Dame goes to Miami. And that's going to be maybe pretty important for both teams, depending on how things go for Miami against NC State. And then they're at Virginia before that series. But no, Notre Dame's pretty rock solid. Jack Radell had another great weekend. He's been as good as any Friday guy in the league in the past month or so.
Yeah, he really has. Last 5 starts, he's 4-0 with a 1 something. Like, he's been lights out. And that's what you need from a Friday night guy. And like, I'm looking at their schedule. That's insane. I never realized they won 8 straight. They do have Louisville coming up, who's been playing pretty well. But yeah, I think that
just got a huge series from Florida State, by the way. We will talk about Louisville because that's a big series win for them.
Yeah, huge. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that last 3 of the season at Miami. That'd be interesting. That could make or break them for sure.
Yeah, and Notre Dame only has 2 conference series left. It's Louisville and then at Miami, because they've got a 3-game set with Bowling Green in the middle there, which is interesting. They're going to do some home and home in that, it looks like. So the first 2, I think, are going to be played in South Bend, and then the other one Sunday is going to be played in Bowling Green, which is kind of a unique way to do that.
Interesting.
Yeah, pretty interesting.
How far is Bowling Green from them?
That's a great question. I don't know. I would imagine close. Bowling Green's in Ohio. You know what? We're gonna do some crack research here.
Yeah,
and pull it up. It's the one thing I didn't make a note about, I guess.
Well, you put me on the spot earlier, so I'm putting you on the spot.
This is not me being on the spot as much as it's Google Maps being on the spot. South Bend, Indiana, to Bowling Green, Ohio, is okay. It shows that there's some traffic right now, and it's 2 hours 40 minutes, so like 2.5 hours. But still, for a one-off, I don't know. That seems kind of. It's not easy. That's not a 30-minute bus ride.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing they're doing with that last non-conference series.
Very interesting.
But yeah, Notre Dame's playing really well. They've swept each of their last 2 conference series against the West Coast teams. So at Stanford last week, Cal in South Bend this week. They had I'll say this for Notre Dame, they had a gauntlet at the beginning of the ACC season.
Yeah.
They got swept by Wake Forest, lost 2 of 3 to Clemson, got swept by Georgia Tech. They had Florida State and lost 2 of 3. And since then, it's been like, okay, they got the first games against both Virginia Tech and BC and then lost the series. And then their 2 sweeps. So look, man, it's what you get. I feel like we could say that about a lot of teams in the ACC who are struggling, right? It's like, man, they had a tough schedule, and it's just kind of the nature of it at this point.
It's just a matter of what part of the year is the toughest part of your schedule, because you're going to go through that gauntlet at some point.
Yeah. Oh,
they went through it early,
for sure.
But with Rory Fox and Raydell throwing the way they are, you never know in a short series like in the tournament what could happen.
Yeah,
right?
For sure. I mean, I think that's the moral of the story with some of these teams who have not been on the radar of the top half of the league and are breaking into that. That's the stories, right? They're playing well at the right time that you never know.
Right.
Louisville with a series win against Florida State. I mean, it's a huge one. Clemson, NC State got a lot of attention as kind of the series of the weekend. Louisville, Florida State was also a big one for ACC purposes. 2 out of 3 for Louisville. Lucas Moore continues to shine. He was great. He had 9 hits in the series.
My pick for player of the week. Just throwing it out there.
There you go.
Cincinnati guy. He's a
this
Cincinnati
was
guy.
this by the way, this another tangent. ACC player and pitcher of the week voting this week as tough as it's been all year.
Yeah.
All year.
A lot of like not just good performances, a lot of like excellent performances. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think if you base a lot of what you do on the numbers for a weekend, there were enough one-game performances that made it difficult. Like, not that Braden Fraseman was bad the other 2 games for NC State, but he went 5 for 5 with 2 home runs and 7 driven in game 1. So his weekly numbers were really good.
Yeah.
Gavin Gallagher against Pitt had a 3 home run game. He didn't hit 3 home runs every game, but he was fine. So his week's collection of numbers were really good.
Now, if he hit 4 homers that game, like Eugenio Suarez did in the big leagues, I think we could have picked him, but he only hit 3.
Yeah, I mean, look, he had a good weekend's numbers worth in one day. Like Fraisman too.
Yeah.
But if you put together slightly less than that over the span of 3 days, like on a per day basis, again, like Lucas Moore averaged 3 hits a game, drove in some runs, and Louisville got a crucial series win. I think that matters.
And his week was against Florida State and Kentucky, the midweek game. So
right.
I mean, that's why, like, to me, it matters who they had to face.
Right.
Like, he didn't face some like joker pitchers.
Yeah. Yeah. So that being said, it was a very difficult week to vote.
Yeah.
I went with AJ Gracia of Duke, who is getting back into form. He hit a couple of home runs. One was a grand slam. And Duke got a series win, another one. So again, you could have gone a number of ways.
Yeah.
With both player and pitcher of the week. I think we differed on both, maybe for the first time all year.
Yeah. But I think this week is going to have a lot of different votes.
Yeah. No, I mean,
everybody.
that's it. There's not some weeks you pull up the voting and it's like, okay, it's unanimous. It's going to be so-and-so. Like Carson Tinney, when he won it for Notre Dame, because he had a monster week, it was just kind of easy.
Yeah.
It was a fun vote, even as agonizing as it was. It was fun to
and
those numbers.
Even D1's ACC Player of the Week was Alex Sosa from NC State. Well, he wasn't even on our ballot.
Yeah,
for ACC Player of the Week. So that's how. I mean, obviously they didn't want to put too many of their guys on there, and I get it. With they put Fraisman on there, but still, like there's so many other guys that had great weeks that didn't even make the ballot.
Yeah, and I mean, with Gracia in mind, Duke had others. I don't know what Sam Harris's line is off the top of my head, but he had a big weekend. Ben Miller with multiple home runs, I'm pretty sure.
Again, of course.
Yeah. So it could have been there could have been way more compelling nominees than there even were for us to choose from. So
yeah,
that is a good sign for the way play has gone in the league the past couple of weeks, especially this past weekend. It was a really, really fun ACC weekend.
Yeah. And Duke is in line for the single bye right now. So, I mean,
they're top 8 in the league. Yeah.
I mean, I cannot wait for this tournament to come. Like, this setup is so awesome. You're going to have teams beating each other up for the first couple of days. And then those top 4 seeds, there's going to be 8 teams gone by the time the top 4 seeds play in the quarterfinals.
Are you there for the network? Are you there starting Thursday? Is that right?
Yeah. So, yes.
Okay. So,
starting the quarterfinals. Yeah.
They're going to be teams with the new single elimination format. They're going to be teams that have come, played, and left by the time you get there. Even.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is pressurized.
Very. Yeah. There's going to be 8 teams gone that I'm not even going to see.
Wow.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about it in those terms. That's crazy.
Yes.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be, and like for some of the teams who are already well positioned, a loss in your first game in the conference tournament probably is not going to affect you that badly.
Right.
Even teams who are like on the bubble, one loss probably not going to affect you. It is, and we talked about this when the announcement was made for this new format. I think it's smart on the league's part because of the low risk, high reward nature of it. So like a team like Miami, say, they sort of split the rest of their games and they turn out to be a bubble team, and then they haul off and win 2-3 games at the conference tournament.
Yeah.
it's a lot to gain. Whereas a loss to an otherwise, also good ACC team is not going to mess with your resume that much if they lose in the first round.
Exactly. But this could help Virginia. Their RPI is really low, and they make it to the semifinals or even win this whole thing. It obviously changes their whole outlook. And then you forget about what they did the whole season,
Yeah.
Because I mean, they're playing on day one, first round.
Yeah.
So
they, by the way, with their series victory over Georgia Tech over the weekend, they did jump 21 spots in the RPI, up from 91 to 70 as of this morning. They're still going to need to gain some ground there,
right.
But you're right. I mean, haul off a few wins, especially if you're in the lower slot of teams and you have the most games to play to win the whole thing. It's almost better for Virginia that way because you're almost going to need to win more in that setting
against all these higher RPI teams.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think, I think if you're Virginia, it might get to a point where if you end up in that lower half of the league, like you're glad about it because you have more opportunities to improve your resume.
Yourself. Yeah.
Even if you don't get to the final or win the tournament, obviously getting the auto bid would be ideal, but no, it'll be really interesting. There's going to be all kinds of angles like that when we get to Durham. It'll be super interesting. All right, I'm going to take a time out here. And let the ball players or ball player knowers in our listening audience know that you can upgrade your swing with the 2025 Soldier Tank Series from Soldier Sports. The BB Core model is built with infused power alloy technology and an ultra hot sweet spot that packs power even on mishits. If you're looking for extra control, the two-piece BB Core version delivers extreme whip and leverage. And for our rising stars, the USSSA Youth Bat brings elite performance in a youth-friendly design. Backed by 2.5 years of research, it's time to drop tanks with the tank. Visit soldiersports.us.
I like that. You need to take a sip of water.
I like that read. It's a good one. It
is. It's so long, though.
I always battle with the first time I did it. I mentioned my days hitting with a BESR certified bat. And so like when I went into college, the BB Core became a thing. And then it was like, oh, geez, now it plays a little more like a wood bat. So I got to barrel something. And I became a significantly worse hitter. So anytime I read it, I'm just like fighting the urge to bring that up. Although I know people have heard me mention it before.
Dude, that's not fair. You got exposed.
I got exposed bad, Gravy. As a glove first middle infielder utility type, I got exposed bad.
Well, yeah, I got exposed my sophomore year in high school, so that's why I just was a pitcher from there on out.
There you go. You go. Is that when you started as a PO, pitcher only? Was high school?
So that
wasn't in an area where it was really competitive too, though. So there probably was more specialization where you were than.
Yeah. And like, I got to hit a little bit, but just because like, it wasn't like I wasn't a starter anywhere else. My senior year, I started a few games at first base, but it was just because we didn't have anybody else. And the coach said, oh, this would be cool. So, but yeah, I was there to pitch and that was it. Like I didn't have batting gloves, nothing. Like it was just, I just need a glove to pitch, nothing else.
You could pack light.
Which is okay with me.
You could pack light for road trips,
That's right. That's right.
Your equipment bag was significantly smaller than everyone else's.
Yeah. Yeah. Just cleats and a glove.
We've got a shout out to make.
Okay.
Because I think we're done talking whatever we're going to do ACC wise. If we didn't get to you, apologies. But that was just the things that came with the weekend that we thought significant.
Yeah.
We have a big league call up shout out to make.
Yep.
It is wild to think that Nick Kurtz this time last year was hitting baseballs in a Wake Forest uniform. because he is now at the major league level and hitting baseballs in an athletics uniform. And in his first big league plate appearance, got an RBI single like the day or 2 days after we last recorded last week. So congrats to Nick Kurtz.
Yeah.
Those who are loyal listeners now, but maybe weren't with us a few years ago, like pre-D1 baseball days, actually.
Yeah.
Nick Kurtz was the very first guest in the history of this program. In the history of the program, we said, okay, we're going to start inviting people on. We're going to ask for guests. Who do we want? And we said Nick Kurtz, because he's going to be a Sacramento Athletic. And he's going to get called up a year after playing college. No, there's zero way we could have foretold any of that.
We just knew that he dropped bombs. Nicky Nukes is who he was at the time.
We did. And anyways, friend of the program, Nick Kurtz, big league debut. Congrats, Nicky Nukes. We're happy for you. Glad to see it happening. Glad to see he's okay after almost tripping over the mound to try to field a pop-up.
In his defense, if that was a big league mound, he wouldn't have tripped. Even though it's a big league stadium now, it's a AAA stadium. So if it was a big league mound, he would have gone up the slope perfectly and would have been caught that and been no problem. Skies are different in big league stadiums. Yeah. The AAA stadiums.
I believe it.
It doesn't matter because I'm sure he doesn't care. He's in the big leagues.
Yeah, no, he's there. I think he's probably there to stay. So congrats to him.
Yeah.
It's cool, man. Like you get to doing this for so long and covering college teams and calling their games and that sort of thing. There's a huge number of guys like that.
Yeah.
In the big leagues now that, have been on the show, been, I guess, interviewed by you on site at the ACC tournament or in Omaha, things like that, right? It's just cool to see. I know from my experience with USA Baseball, you get a handful of years removed from a collegiate national team, and it's like, wow, they're all in the majors now.
Yeah.
Jacob Wilson, teammate of Nick Kurtz's, was he starred for the collegiate national team just a few years ago before getting up to the big league level last year. So it's cool. It's really, really fun to see. And Kurtz has former Wake teammates who will soon be there. I don't think it's going to take Chase Burns or Brock Wilkin.
Lauder's already there.
Lauder's already up. I don't think it's going to take Burns or Wilkin that long to get up there. It's cool. It's just cool to see. So
it's so cool. And I feel like Nick is who I've interviewed the most as a player, like first started with us. And then at those ACC tournaments that you mentioned, I feel like we've had him on so many times and just a great personality. Like he's perfect for a big league clubhouse. Yeah. No, he is a natural born big leaguer in more ways than one. So that's definitely.
Speaking of being a natural born big leaguer, there's one on the opposite screen as me. So it's time to play Hall of Name. This is the part of the show where, in case you're new here, I mention a teammate or a game or an instance or an opponent even from Danny's time as a Major League Baseball player, a Miami Hurricanes Hall of Famer at the collegiate level, a member of Team USA at the collegiate level. I just give him a name and he runs with it. Word association, story time, first thing that comes to mind. Now, it occurred to me when we had Runes on last week and he mentioned Charles Johnson. We had run with that name before, but it had been a while. Again, as of a few years ago, we weren't even under the D1 baseball umbrella. So some of these, we've got a lot of people who have started listening since way back then. And we went over early on some of the bigger names that you played with. So I'm going to reserve the right here to cycle back through some names.
Yes.
just for, in the interest of some good stories that some of our more regular listeners now maybe didn't hear a few years ago.
Maybe I'll go back and listen to all those just to see, like, I'll fast forward to the Hall of Name and see who we've picked already that weren't on the D1 brand.
Yeah, and I know some of them off the top of my head,
okay,
because they were good enough stories. So we're going to go back to the I know this one was not on the D1 brand.
Okay.
Because this was our very first episode when we started Hall of Name. The first name I mentioned was Ken Griffey Jr.
Oh my gosh, that was the first one.
And you told a story about at spring training, Griffey pulling up next to you in whatever he was driving at the time, and essentially challenging you to a street race.
Yeah, challenging me without challenging me. So he had it just come out, the Porsche Carrera GT. It was a $500,000 Porsche. It was one made of all fiberglass, and it was like the lightest in weight car that Porsche has made. So 0 to 60 is probably like -2. I don't know. It's like the car was so fast. Well, I had a Ferrari 360 Spider at the time, red convertible, red wheels, like Tom Selleck, but with red wheels. Like I thought I was like Hawaii 5-0 or whatever show that he was on. I don't even remember what show.
Magnum PI.
Magnum PI. That's it.
Yeah.
So, I'm leaving spring training, just casually trying to go home, and then here comes Griffey, pulls up next to me, and just looks at me, and it's like the look of, what are we going to do this or not? So I'll try to paint the scenery real quick. We're in Sarasota, Florida, and where a bunch of retired people go because there's beaches and stuff, and all the houses, there's houses everywhere next to the ballpark. So when you pull out of the ballpark, it's speed limit is 15 or 20 for like a couple miles until you get to the street and then to the highway. So he pulls up next to me. He looks at me and gives me that look like, are we going to do this? And before he could finish, I just took off. I start flying down the road. I'm going 100. And as I'm like turning, he's flying past me like I'm going 10 miles an hour. Like he just blew right past me in the little streets of Sarasota, Florida, with all these tiny little houses. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that just happened. I don't even know how fast he was going. We never talked about it after that. But yeah, it was awesome that we raced. Thankfully, we didn't get in trouble or got hurt. But I mean, people think of Ken Griffey Jr. having 600 plus home runs. I think of Ken Griffey Jr. racing down the streets in Sarasota. And it was great, dude. It was awesome.
As a follow-up, was he like the biggest star you ever played with? Just in terms of like guy who garnered the most attention from crowds, got maybe accosted for autographs the most, or anything like that. What comes to mind?
Yes. I would say, trying to think, like there's nobody, like not including all-star teams or any of that. Like there was nobody that came close to Ken Griffey Jr. I was in awe playing with Ken Griffey Jr. because growing up, he was the Shohei Ohtani of all of us growing up, because like there was posters of only Ken Griffey Jr. There wasn't posters of everybody else playing. Like everybody wanted to be Junior. Everybody wanted to wear their hats backwards. Everybody wanted to rob home runs. And like, he was the guy. And then when he came to play for us, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is Ken Griffey Jr. And I'd been with Ken Griffey Sr. for years by this time. Like he'd been one of our coaches for the last 3 or 4 years. So like, I wasn't in awe of Griffey, but when he actually came into the clubhouse, it's like, holy smokes, this is Ken Griffey Jr. I can't believe it. I can't believe we're on the same team.
Yeah.
Like, insane, dude. It's hard to explain. It's hard to explain. And like being starstruck with your teammate, like it's a thing. It really is.
We've talked about Barry Larkin too. I mean, I it's just crazy that like you played with other Hall of Famers, but he's the one, because of like sort of the popularity and the cool factor, right? That's just, it seems to me like that what you're saying makes sense, that he would be the biggest.
Yeah. And that's not a knock on any of the other Hall of Famers that I played with or against, but like, I think everybody around our age, I know you're a lot younger than me, Professor, but still, like, you grew up, holy cow, Ken Griffey Jr. is legit. He's the best baseball player on the planet. Like, commercials of Ken Griffey and video games of Ken Griffey.
We discussed Jordan earlier. There were not many signature shoes, cleats in baseball.
He was the only one.
I played with guys who like worshipped at the altar of Ken Griffey Jr. and wore Griffey's turfs, his cleats,
the swingmans. Yeah.
They got the swingman batting gloves and stuff like that. Like, that doesn't apply to people in baseball. And especially it didn't then.
Right. Yeah. It was Griffey Jr. was the Jordan of baseball. Like, it's hands down was the Michael Jordan of Major League Baseball. And still to this day, there's only one other guy that has a signature shoe from Nike in baseball, and it's Mike Trout. So it's Junior and Mike Trout. Nobody else has the signature shoe. Now, other players have had their shoes designed by Nike, and they'll do kind of how they want them to do them. But as far as an actual shoe, nobody else, just Griffey and Trout.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. All right, that's Hall of Name. It might be a story you heard before, hopefully with some added color by Gravy this time. And if you did hear that when we first did it, thanks, because we're like a couple hundred episodes in at this point.
Yeah,
So
very loyal.
Means a lot. That means a lot. That's going to do it for us on ACC Baseball, etc. For Danny Graves, I'm Daron Vaught. We thank you for listening or watching here on YouTube, X, wherever else they put this, the fine folks at D1 Baseball. Our thanks to Academy Sports and Outdoors, as always. Go get a tank, soldiersports.us as well while you're at it. Enjoy the games. We got the home stretch of the season coming. It's going to be a lot of fun, but we'll talk again this time next week.